Right, I've made 2 video attempts here, and I end up stumbling and then don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Usually happens after I've done cardio of some sort, like my mind keeps going blank. It's like the blood's like pumped out of my head or something. So I need to stop doing this because it's distracting me from what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah. I wanted to talk about energy parasites here, right? And I'm talking about those types of people that feed on your energy and don't let it like don't nourish yours, or there's no reciprocality. They make everybody else feel like drained and shit because of how they're responding and acting and expressing. An example of that would be somebody that conducts most of the fucking conversations by incessantly asking questions as though it's an interrogation. Like, what's your problem, pal? Like, you're getting a fucking kick out of asking me these questions. I'll tell you what, I'll ask you fucking 20 questions to see how you like it. I'm not talking about anybody in particular here. Fucking, you know what I'm talking about? Like, something's biting me. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, fuck mosquitoes and fuck fucking horseflies as well. I'll tell you what, you're gonna get the devil if you're doing that. And this is the point here, people. You might think that you don't have a dark side. Well, have you ever been angry? Have you ever been resentful? Have you ever been fucking, like, filled with rage at how somebody behaves, about some sort of injustice, or imposed sort of, like, crap fucking rules that don't even make any sense? Because that's what annoys me above anything else. It's that kind of thing. So, in the way that this heavenly realm is depicted, like this character, Lucifer, right, or whatever the fucking hell his name is, I doubt they'd be speaking fucking Latin in whatever realm that was. But so the point is the narrative that they posed is not necessarily what happened. And secondly, like, I haven't researched this. I might do, but then even if I research it, where's the fucking, like, data coming from? How do you know that it's right? Like, you know what I mean? Honestly, just because something's credited by a state or a school or whoever the fuck it's credited by, how do you know that it's not sabotaged? And I don't even mean necessarily sabotaged in a sense that it's like, they're intentionally misleading you. They might have just been fucking, like, they might have just misinterpreted it, like, what's gone on. How can you knowingly interpret a higher realm? So this individual, right, was a conflict of interest in heaven, right? So whatever the rules were being challenged by this sort of, like, horned character. And then, like, God said, like, well, we can't have you here because you're causing trouble. But what was the fucking point? Like, what was the point? And then people say, oh, well, he fell to sin and, like, started, like, completely fucking encapsulated the duality, like the negative side of the duality. So he succumbed to complete evil and defied everything that this, like, holy, like, deity stands for. But if you look at the fucking Old Testament, what? He's like, oh, so, like, what? I don't even remember who it was, but, like, the Egyptian kids are to be, like, genocided. Like, okay, like, well, the kids haven't done it. What if one of them kids was actually, like, all right and would have fucking stood up and said, like, this is wrong? No, they've been killed in a plague now. So you can't tell me that the God in that story is fine. And then you could say, yeah, but Jesus came over and, like, was an expression of true mercy. That isn't even true mercy, because his brothers died on the cross as well as him. And maybe if they'd have fucking thought that it got out alive, I mean, the guy could walk on water. Like, he could duplicate fish and, like, turn water into wine and walk on water. So you can't tell me that he couldn't have blasted somebody with fucking lightning or something. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's the point. That's the whole fucking point of what I'm saying. Were you there? No. You don't even know what happened yesterday. Like, let alone 2,000 years ago when you weren't even alive. So the idea that anybody can tell me definitively what happens, and some fucking, like, Christian man or, like, anybody who's religious and has, like, an opinion on this kind of thing would be like, we've been given the Holy Spirit and divine guidance. You don't know how deceptive deities can be. Deception is sometimes manipulation in the negative sense, and sometimes it's a lesson to teach you not to be deceived. Which one is it? That's you to discern which one it is. He said God works in mysterious ways. Well, I'll tell you a mysterious way that doesn't make any fucking sense to me, right? Yeah? God says to this dude, right, you need to sacrifice your beloved son. And the dude says, like, all right, well, I'll go on the hill. I'll fucking, I'll cut his throat or whatever. And then God says, just before he's going to do it, like, no, whoa. Like, you passed the test. Like, I tell you what, if some deity come up to me and said, like, well, you need to sacrifice your son, I'll say, you can get to the brig. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah, like, you're telling me that obedience is like, fucking why? Did he not ask why? Like, why should I do that? Because it'll have a good effect in the ripple of reality. Yeah, but this is the opposite of virtue, God. Like, sacrifice my own son. What is he? Is he going to be Stalin? Is that what you're telling me? Like, you need to explain, because if I'm going to kill my own son here, like, you need to be fucking telling me why at least. I mean, I'm not necessarily educated on all these stories because I can't be bothered reading the Bible. Like, it's boring. I'd rather read fucking, like, I can discern more meaning and lessons out of fucking Mr. Men than that book. Seriously, that's not even a joke. You read Mr. Impossible, Mr. Happy, and definitely Mr. Jelly. Like, and tell me that it's not better than the Bible. I tell you what, you give me 10 minutes and I'll make a better fucking, like, legacy than the Bible. Here it is. Where's that lighter? Or it's in my right pocket. It's usually in the left. That's where the money usually is. Because money is a concept. It needs to be on the right hemisphere. So, you need to listen to me. That dog's hauling ass. I'm going to keep this on for a minute. What charge are we on here? 25, right. So, I need to empty out my head before I can focus here. So, we're going to burrow through the coke and lime here. And if you're wondering what I keep referencing, it's it's a poem. Well, basically a poem, like an imaginative sort of experience made by a channel called Burial Goods, called Hell is Empty and All the Devils Are Here. So, for the fuck of it, I'm going to recite it to the best that my memory can do. God takes the souls of the dead and damned. runs the dead through cam grinders, and tosses the damned into a blast furnace. Those cancer-like souls of the sinful are cut into sections and rolled into sheets, forming the housing which hold all suffering. Haired goblins work day in and out, patching tanks as the metal screams. Eyes bubble from the beads, soon swelled shut and blistered. Metal monsters, brass butchers, and the slave races trample on scale-packed roads. Men cough red and brown gunk. Black clouds rain and spit hail. Hail suckle, rip berry bushes, and skull picker plants grow in the marshes, entangling the supporting beams and pillars. Bands of branded and chained men cull the jungle, chain axes and burners in hand, torching brain bugs, bloodworms, wretches, and wild men with blinding orange flames. Gunfire ever present from the bounding plains. Marauders on iron horses raid the docks of the scrap coast, taking all the steel they can. Butcher before brass altars, beheadings and skinnings. Butchery before the machine spirits, keeping living steel alive. Boys and men run harpoon trucks. Oh, man, gone. Great winged beasts terrorize the sky, nesting upon chimney stacks and high rises. Boys and men run harpoon trucks, hunting the winged bitches. What's next here? I'm gonna have to wing it here. Can remember it a bit. I'm ruining it. Fuck's sake. We're gonna end it there. No. You approach like a field of summit. Wood splitters and bark falls in your presence. The grasses wrap around you, whistling. A bloodhound before you is strangled in the hell-suckle roots and assaulted by large ants. The trees turn to watch you, staring at an untouchable meal. Tracer rounds fill the black sky and melt the rain. Anyway, that is one of my favorite poems, and like, you know, somebody might say, like, you know, you identify with like the devil. I know. The point is imagination is the freedom of life. Imagination is my imagination is fruitful and frightening, and I imagine yours is as well, unless you're a boring fucking idiot. And if you are, then you need to go to the brig. But fucking, like, you know, it ain't all sunshine and roses out here. You know, sometimes a fella's got to eat a fella. And all that. Like, you can't expect the gods, if you want to call them that, you know, transcended entities. They're not always playing like, you know, sunshine and roses and fucking smiling sunshine, like, oh, copy's only a dime, living in the sunlight, all that kind of thing. Like, sometimes it's like you want to experience the whole spectrum of consciousness, which demands that sometimes heaven is walking into hell and waging war against the fucking fiends within it. So if you're a being of power, you have to be able to use that power in order to actually fucking be satisfied. Like, and I'm not saying it's all about destruction and like rage and hate. It's not. But at a certain point, the universe says, like, you know, you need to get something out your system, so we're going to attract something to you so that can happen. So, like, the idea that you're just going to get to heaven and sit down and be like fucking, you know, chilling all the time is ridiculous. You know, when are you actually enjoying yourself? It's when you're fucking like, you know, skiing, or like when you're using skill, when you're confronting danger, and when you're growing. And after a certain point, if you are a powerful creature in the universe, you're going to have to face danger. And you will find that, you know, you're most alive when you're closest to death. But funnily enough, the paradox of that is the closer you get to death and the calmer you can be and the more faithful and trusting and, you know, competent you can be in a very pressurized situation. If you can come out of that in one piece, the safer you are. So whenever anybody says to you, like, you know, you want me to stay safe, dude, like, you don't want to be taking any risk. Like Jordan Peterson said, you're going to hear me say that a lot. Do not interrupt children when they're skateboarding. You get my picture? You need to do shit like that. You know? You want to sit on the sidelines and never take any risk. Life's a risk, pal. You know, you might end up like doing a fucking like attempting a grind on the skateboard and end up cracking your head open. Like, for example, when I was about 4, 3 or 5, something like that, right? I was at my grandparents' house, and you know, the flags in the garden were being like done and they weren't finished yet, and I was warned not to be jumping about anymore because we were all that me and the, like, you know, my cousins were fucking mauling about and jumping between the fucking cracks and shit. And they said, like, you know, you need to stop doing that because you might get hurt. And I thought, like, I'm doing it. So I went back out and did it. And, you know, synchronistically slipped and cracked my head on the fucking thing. And I remember, like, you know, pushing my body up and seeing, like, blood, like spill out of my head into this puddle. And, blah, blah, blah. I went to the fucking hospital. I had to have a general anaesthetic. You can see the mark there. And funnily enough, right, when I was in the hospital, I remember I was introduced to Harry Potter, right? The first one came on, like, the end of it. And I thought, like, that's a bit mad. Like, this, you know what I mean? And what I've perceived as part of my ability of what I'm supposed to bring to the table here is I have a relationship with pain. And for the longest time, I've had a very strong subconscious fear of pain, like physical pain, emotional pain I'm quite familiar with, and if anything, it's much worse. But you know, you have to face pain in order to grow and transform and evolve. So this is basically an expression of the head-on mentality that you need to have in order to actually transform and be courageous in life. That's what this is about. So, and when I there was a time, like, when I was back home, I decided I've walked a lot barefoot before, but like I did it for ages, like for a period, and after a certain amount of time, like, you know, when your feet are like sore from actually just walking, and the sore from standing on fucking rocks, like, you know, like of all sizes and shit, I found myself spontaneously uttering like tongues. And if you watch my other channel, you might have like hear me saying some sort of schizo nonsense like that. What I'm saying, and it sounds like a devilish kind of language, but I suppose it is. Like, if you want to call me the devil, like, But really what it represents is, instead of acting or responding to pain in a self-sympathetic sort of like that, it's like Makinta Sikara, like that sort of thing. And you can say like, he looked me stupid, like, but if it works, and it does work, then fuck you. You know what I mean? I'll do it. But if you say that to me, and then you don't say it to some Christian that's speaking in tongues, then that's a double standard and you're discriminating. So you want to talk about discrimination, pal. There's a such thing as energetic discrimination, right? But when is discrimination actually reasonable? When people are imposing unjust suffering. Because then you could say, well, if people are fucking, like, you know, deluding people or mistreating people, you know, locking women into cupboards and, like, making them worse stuff, yeah, stoning people to death. Now, don't get me wrong, right? I do not have a problem if you're a Muslim. But if you're the type of Muslim that says women have to wear that or we'll kill them, or you can only speak when spoken to if you're a woman, and that kind of thing, I'll tell you what, right? You're going to end up in hell. I don't give a fuck what the book says. That is not reasonable, and you know it's not. And your cognitive dissonance based on your stupid doctrine, or at least your misinterpretation of the doctrine, will get you further into the brig until you realise how stupid that is. Because the thing is about karma is it's always reciprocal. You'll end up in a fucking cupboard. But it won't just be some weak little humans telling you to do it. It'll be the devil. You understand? So, unfortunately, some people have to learn by extreme measures. And everybody has to learn. Because what the fuck is this? Like, I keep saying this, amateur hour. If we're to move forward, you either get left behind or you go forward. Like, think about this, right? We're supposed to be a competent and collectively aligned species, right? We need to come to an agreement, at least at the basis of our motivation of what encapsulates virtue, in order to actually fucking, like, sort all of this ridiculous, it's not even adolescent state of consciousness. This is like a toddler gone mad, what the fucking human race is doing at the minute. We've lost the plot, all of us, which I find very, very fucking annoying when I have lost my head exploring my perception in the past, and then people that are fucking just as insane as me have locked me up and fed me neurological poison. What? Because I ask questions and explore my mind? Are you taking the piss? But guess what? I can swim now. Yeah? And that's the point here, people. You can learn. So anybody who tells you that you need to be taking stupid medication, and it might be necessary if you've really lost your head, but the idea that that is a permanent solution to your fucking condition, you ought to ask yourself this question if you're a fucking psychiatrist. If you'd asked questions, if you'd explored, if you'd been under intense pressure, if you'd been under certain traumas, would you be in the same situation? And would you be happy with the treatment that you're imposing? I don't fucking think so. So if you're doing that, why? And when you get to the fucking brig, do not blame it on anybody but yourself. Because that, when it comes to Jesus, is essentially why he failed. It's not even that he didn't defend his brothers. God, why have you forsaken me? You telling me that the guy who saved us all is going to blame it and start moaning at some deity after he's on that fucking cross like that. What, that's the guy that saved everybody? God, why have you forsaken me? Are you fucking having a laugh? The guy who's supposed to take responsibility for mistakes he didn't even make, which is not even what you're supposed to do, by the way, in my opinion. Why should Jesus have to do that? And now, don't get me wrong again. I actually respect Jesus because he had the bravery to walk the walk. My point is that as far as the narrative expresses, from my point of view, he got it wrong. And you've all got it wrong that follow him as well. That's not superlative virtue. Because if you've watched, what is the greatest form of fucking love? It's a warrior. And I'm not talking about somebody who goes round cutting people's heads off for no reason. I'm talking about somebody who's appropriate and properly relative to situational demand. Somebody who's intelligent. Somebody who's wise. Somebody who's fair. But somebody who will kill and hurt the people that are imposing, like, unjust suffering. There you go. That's what it is to me. And you can't tell me I'm wrong. So you just have a think, right? Enough of that now. Just have a fucking think about what it is to be a fucking man or a woman. Really. And think about what would work as a relative character structure in a higher dimension. Think about it.